I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret about white people. Every single white person knows somebody who is racist. Racist towards black people, racist towards Spanish people. We all know somebody. It might be our family member, it might be a distant relative, it might be a coworker, it might be an old friend, but we all know somebody. Personally, I come from a whole family of racist people. Yeah, my entire family is Republican too. Okay? My dad's parents are racist and my mom's parents are racist. Okay? So I'm literally going against everything by talking about this. I am putting my own life on the line by speaking about this, and that's what we all should be doing. See, we could have ended this a long time ago, but people like my mom listened to these racist comments that their parents were making and didn't speak out against it. They kept their mouths shut, or they agreed with them silently, you know? But they didn't do anything about it. They continued to let this be passed on generation after generation. Oh, my mom never told me or taught me any racist ideologies. She continued to let it happen because she didn't speak out against it when her parents were talking about it or my dad's parents were talking. So if you are against racism and you are against discrimination and you're a white person, you need to speak out about it. Otherwise, you are allowing this to continue generation after generation, and you are just as much a part of the problem as anybody else.
So you probably look at a guy like me and say, "You're the whitest white man in America. You don't know anything about racism." And I'd say, "You're absolutely right. I don't know anything about racism. And I wish more people who look like me would just acknowledge that. It's one thing to experience racism vicariously, it's another thing to live it on a daily basis. I have a very good friend. We graduated law school together and we ended up getting our first jobs out of law school at the same big downtown DC law firm. On paper, we were the same person, but in reality, he was black and I was white. And every night when we worked late, we had to leave together because if he left alone, he'd stand on the street and no cabs would pick him up. So I'd go with him and I'd make sure he got the first cab that stopped. It was wrong that my friend had to deal with that kind of a prejudicial burden on a daily basis. He'd say that was one of the easier issues to deal with as a black man in America, but it was wrong. And you know what? As a white man, I've never had to experience that. So, white people, let's stop pretending. We don't understand racism.
As an ally to the black community, I believe in doing the right thing. Always. As allies, it isn't enough to just be passively accepting. We have to stand up against racism in all its ugly forms. Which is why I, as an anti-racist ally, refuse to say absolutely any word that starts with the letter N.
Alright, let me jump in here. Those first clips said something many people feel but rarely say out loud. Silence inside families, friend groups, and workplaces helps racism keep growing. You had one person admit they grew up around it, and another show how two people with the same resume can live two different realities. That's the point. Some things you only understand when you listen to people who live it. For me, it's not about blaming every white person. It's about asking honest questions. Are we calling out harmful comments when no cameras are around? Are we listening when friends talk about what they deal with every day? Are we willing to be a little uncomfortable if that's what it takes to make things better? I want you to stay with me because the next clips go deeper. How people respond when allies speak up, what comfort really means, and why understanding history matters for solutions today. Let's keep an open mind and keep watching. And remember to like the video and also drop your opinions in the comment section.
In case you're new here, I want to make it very clear where my husband and I stand in all of the chaos that is happening here in the United States. And I'm going to say it one more time. We stand with marginalized people. We stand with black people, Hispanic people, trans people, gay people, Muslim people, anyone who is being villainized in this very moment that you can think of, we stand for them. And I am tired as a white woman not seeing enough white people calling out the bullshit that is happening right now. If you've got black friends, Hispanic friends, trans friends, gay friends, and you are being quiet and you are not calling out other white people when they start saying racist, transphobic, Islamophobic, any kind of horrible remarks, you are equally a part of the problem. We do not need to let other people be comfortable in their hatred anymore. It is our job as any progressive white person to stand up and call out bullshit when we hear it, and to make these people feel uncomfortable enough to go back into hiding or to second guess the things that they are supporting, doing, and saying. And no, we do not have to be close to these people, stay friends with these people, have relationships with these people if they are continuously saying things that hurt marginalized people. I have seen too many white people, the minute their black friends aren't around, feel comfortable enough to sit there and listen to some bullshit that their friend might have to say that is racist and not stand up for their black friend. And then you wonder why black people don't want to fuck with us anymore. I am no longer going to not say anything to these people and be quiet. There is nothing okay with what is happening right now. And so if you are new to my page and you have started following us, I just want to let you know right here, right now, one more time, because I said it a few weeks ago, that this is where I stand. And if you come on this page and you spew any hate or any bull crap and you start talking about these other people, these marginalized groups, and you have no facts that even back up what you are saying other than Fox News, I will block you.
Unfortunate truth is that most of the time, white people don't be paying attention to things that are going on unless other white people are speaking about it. And we can know that because I have white people come up to me all the time and say, oh, I would have never known about that unless I heard you speaking about it. This is because you are only listening to white people. You are centering white people. There's just not as much acknowledgement or awareness there for a white person towards a minority person as there is a white person towards another white person. And some of this, yes, can be attributed to just blatant racism, but it's primarily societal indoctrination of racism. I'm not saying this as somebody who practices it intentionally. I'm saying this as somebody who observes it every day. We treat the indigenous people out here in the Black Hills as second-class citizens. They're the original citizens of this nation. And they scream and they shout about MMIW and the Millennium Scoop and indigenous issues that have been going on for decades. White people hear them, they just don't listen. Because in order for white people to acknowledge that these things are going on, they would have to get comfortable with disturbing their white fragility. The sight or the sound or the acknowledgement of an indigenous person brings about feelings of guilt in a white person. And all of them want to say, oh, it's not my fault. I didn't steal the land from the native people. It was my ancestors. What am I supposed to do about it? Just because something isn't your fault doesn't mean it's not your responsibility. I believe that there is absolutely a universal karma to everything you're seeing going on right now. Trust me when I tell you that this disturbance in the force will continue until we get right with the original people. So you better start listening to what they have to say.
I think white people think that other people want to be them. I think they think other people want to be white. They actually think that people are looking at them ordering Charlie Kirk's at Starbucks in a show of solidarity and thinking, God, I wish that was fucking me. They think people want to be like them. Bro, nobody wants to be like white people.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
In every lifetime, if I ever got reincarnated, I would choose to be black. This video is so funny because it is true. Like, white people think that they are the norm, the status quo, and that they are the blueprint for things, and everything outside of the scope of being white is not normal. I can speak boldly for the majority of black people on earth, and I will say 99.999% of black people. In every lifetime, if I ever got reincarnated, I would choose to be black. With everything that we experience in the world, with everything, all the history we have, all the racism, microaggressions, macroaggressions existing in this world, having to prove yourself, being better than everybody just to get an equal level playing field, I would always choose to be black. I couldn't imagine not having 20 cousins, having fake cousins, being communal, going to church, having growing up in my grandmother's house, having dinner at my grandma's house, having a drunk uncle that has hoop dreams at 50 who used to be a rapper. I couldn't imagine not having all the things that bring me together as a black person with other black people. Seasoned food, rhythm, music, clothes, swag, style, impact. I just could not imagine not being this person. So if you're watching this and you're white and you really think that you are the blueprint because the world has told you so, that's a lie, bro. It's a lie. I would never want to be white. Even, don't get me wrong. There are some people out there that have issues internally, self-hatred, and that's due to our history in this land and the world. But the majority of us would always choose to be melanated in the next lifetime. Have a wonderful day.
White people on the internet always seem to be confused as to why they're being accused of racism, and an example of this that I see every single day on this app is some random person of color will make a TikTok and like hashtag black girl magic or something along those lines, and every single time, without hesitation, some white person will be in the comments being like, well, what about white people? How come I can't say white girl magic? You'd call me racist then. And this presents what sociologists like to call a double bind. The double bind here is that when people of color talk about their oppression as it relates to white people, they're told to shut up about it, or that it's not white people, it's their own cultural mishaps or whatever. But then when people of color talk about their own personal empowerment within their group, then white people always want to interject and be like, well, what about white people? So we force people of color into these safe spaces, and then we sit there and complain and accuse them of racism when they participate in their own safe spaces. Make this make sense.
Hi, my name is Kylie, and here are 4 racist beliefs that good white people have. Number 1, denial of the racial wealth gap. A lot of white Americans believe that the gap between the incomes of the average white and black person is the average white person works harder while the average black person doesn't. That erases centuries of discrimination, slavery, redlining, and other practices that were meant to keep black people out of positions of power and wealth. Number 2, black people are just naturally athletic. While it may sound like a compliment, there's a few reasons this is the case, especially in the US. For one, white people used to selectively breed black people to get desired traits. This stereotype dehumanizes black bodies and also downplays the role that factors like access and talent have. Number 3, we all start from the same place. Many white people believe that in 2025 everyone has an equal shot in life, but this is simply not true. Many neighborhoods are still segregated and generational wealth still dictates opportunity. And number 5, I treat everyone the same. These types of white people treat everyone the same so long as they act white, aka they don't conform to stereotypes about the racial identity that they belong to. So if you're a white person who says any of these things, stop and take the time to fucking educate yourself. Okay, bye.
People don't think they're racist because white people don't understand racism fundamentally. White people think that to be racist, you have to be out hate criming. You have to explicitly be saying you don't like XYZ minority group. You have to be saying you think white people are better. And this level of binary thinking is extremely comfortable for white people because most white people aren't out hate criming. Most racist people aren't out hate criming or explicitly saying they hate minority groups. It's a little bit more subtle for most racist people. Obviously, there are some people who do say that, but that is the exception, not the rule. This goes for both sides of the aisle. Like during the election, people kept saying, not everyone who voted for him is racist, but all the racist people did vote for him. Completely incorrect. Reverse that. Everyone who voted for him is racist. You cannot vote for that without being racist. However, not all racist people voted for him. And that is harmful to say because that perpetuates this narrative of like, or this trope of, I have a black friend, I can't be racist. I voted for Kamala Harris, I can't be racist. I vote for the people who support the minorities. I'm obviously not racist and I don't need to do any further work to prove that. Sophia Coppola is obviously conservative and conservative racism is a little bit more explicit, but they don't think it's wrong. And they don't think they're racist because they know that racism is a bad word. That's bad. And racism is wrong. So I'm not racist. I don't hate minority groups. I just don't think that inequality is an issue. I just don't think it's wrong. I just don't think microaggressions exist, right? That's not racist. That's just how they frame their world, and that's comfortable for them. And if there's anything white people cannot give up, it's comfort. Do not make white people uncomfortable. Oh my God. Oh my God. And that goes for the left too. I personally have to work every single day to deconstruct systemic racism within myself, within the people around me, within the world that I exist in, the context, right? And I have to be constantly thinking about that because racism is so deeply embedded in our society, in our psyches. But a lot of white people on the left don't feel the need to do that because they're doing their part. They're not voting for racism, so they're not racist. If they don't learn about microaggressions, then they don't have to acknowledge that they exist, and they don't have to call themselves or their friends out for doing them, right? If they call people out for saying the M word, if they go, hey, don't say that, that's doing their part. It would be really uncomfortable for them to have to learn about the way that white supremacy exists in our society. And they don't want to be uncomfortable. Don't make them uncomfortable. Don't fight white supremacy. They're going to hate it. And this isn't an excuse at all, but this binary view of racism isn't helpful and it's not productive to think that like everyone who's racist knows it and says like, I hate minorities. It almost views it in the same lens that they view it. Racism is never okay on any level, but it isn't a binary thing. It's not lacking in nuance. Like there is a lot of nuance. There's no justification, but there are different types of racists. There are different understandings of racism, and to not acknowledge that does us all a disservice.
True. Not one black person alive today was enslaved in America. That is true. Black people are wanting free stuff. Okay, I don't know. I want free stuff, so I guess white people want free stuff too. Reparations isn't about someone who had been enslaved and now is not enslaved. We had a chance to do that, and we blew it back in the 1880s and 90s. So 40 acres and a mule, for some it was more, for some it was less. 40 acres and a mule is what was promised to those working on plantations. That never happened. Then sharecropping. Then all the Jim Crow. All of those things prevented Black Americans from establishing any kind of generational wealth up and until the Civil Rights Act. Now, we can argue for a really long time that the Civil Rights Act didn't clear everything up. It didn't. But at least it was now illegal to discriminate. So I want you to think about if your family and ancestors had to start at 1964, where you and your family would be today. How would you have paid for college? Would your family have been able to help you with that? Where would you have lived? Reparations is about making up for what wasn't given then, which could have propelled that community into wealth today. We are finally seeing Black Americans with multi-generational wealth starting to emerge, and it's only going to keep on going, and that's great. But what reparations does is it makes up for the fact that you had all these enslaved Americans, and then, okay, you're free, with nothing. Starting from scratch in a system where they weren't even counted as a full human being, where they were limited in what jobs they could have. They didn't have access to Social Security. Now we have Civil Rights Act, 1964. Everyone has equal rights. So imagine if that's where your ancestors were starting. That's why reparations are important. And that's why I think we're remiss now for not taking a serious look at reparations and how we're going to do that. I know people get all hung up on, how do you prove that your ancestors were enslaved? Okay, how about we give low interest mortgages, interest-free mortgages, free college, and maybe that's the free stuff you're talking about, but that will only better our community. So what's the problem? I don't get what the problem is. So educate me.
Well, if the Southern Baptist Convention, America's largest evangelical denomination, failing to pass a resolution condemning alt-right white supremacy twice before finally being passed isn't enough for you, how about this one? It's going to take a little, let's say, discernment to see, so bear with me. As someone that was an evangelical church planter, I can tell you that they, as a movement, have all kinds of resources and money dedicated to planting churches. So I myself planted a church in an economically under-resourced city in the Boston area. And as most people know, the Boston area is one of the most segregated in the country. But the more I looked around at conferences and through conversations online, the more I saw young white men like myself flocking to cities like this and planting multi-ethnic, multiracial churches. Now you might be thinking to yourself, wow, that actually sounds amazing. And that's precisely where you'd not only be wrong, but you'd be expressing a racist understanding of the world. See, for white folks from the suburbs to bring our cultural and racial biases to a city in which we're the minority, all the while proclaiming that we have the answers to life and that people in need should be relying on our version of God. Oh yeah, and to give us 10% of their paychecks, of course. This new, albeit less overtly violent form of imperial Christianity is rooted in the belief that Black indigenous people of color are somehow lacking and need what we have to offer, and that their faith communities, of which there are far more than most suburban areas, are not quite good enough. So we need to go in there and set them straight and teach them about the real Jesus with our culturally appropriated music and strategically placed people of color in our marketing materials, all while a white guy steers the ship.
Let's talk about what we've just watched and what it means in real life. A lot of people in these clips are saying the quiet part out loud. When white families and social cycles include people who say and believe harmful things about Black people, Latinos, indigenous communities, Muslims, LGBTQ plus folks, and more, the real question is not whether those people exist. It's what the rest of Americans do when they hear it. Silence has a cost. When harmful ideas go unchallenged, they pass from one generation to the next like a story that never gets edited. Another key point we had is the difference between witnessing racism from the outside and living with it every day. The story about two law school graduates, same credentials, different treatment when trying to get a cab, was simple but powerful. It shows how bias doesn't always look like a headline. Sometimes it's a small, repeated things that tell someone where they are welcome and where they are not. Those moments add up. They shape stress levels, career paths, and even how you feel safe in the public. If you have never had to think about those things, that's a form of advantage. It doesn't make you a bad person, it just means you have a role to play when you see unfairness. We also had a strong call for allies to move from passive agreement to active support. That does not mean shouting at people online or trying to perform allyship. It means setting clear boundaries in private conversations, at family tables, in group chats, and at work. It means saying the comment is not okay without turning the moment into a fight about ego. Real allyship is steady, not loud. It respects the people affected most and follow their leads instead of trying to lead their struggle. Another speaker talked about how many white people pay attention only when white people talk about racism. That's honest and uncomfortable. And it points out to something practical. If your voice opens the door, use it to let people in, not to center yourself. Share the mic. Cite the people who have lived the reality you are describing. If a friend only listens to you, then your job is to guide them toward the people they should be listening to without replacing those voices. The conversation about indigenous community and the idea of responsibility versus blame is also very important. You don't have to carry guilty for what you didn't personally do, but all of us live with the result of history, and we all have responsibility to improve what we can touch, our institutions, our neighborhoods, our schools, our places of worship. Responsibility asks, what can I do now? It's forward-looking and it's building the trust. There was also a section challenging the idea that the conversation on race are binary, as if the only racists are the people doing overt harm. The reality is more complex. There is open hate, yes, but there is also the patterns, habits, and policies that create unequal outcomes even when nobody in the room uses slur. If you think racism only exists when someone announces it, you will miss how it operates in hiring, housing, schools, and media. Seeing nuance doesn't excuse the problem. It helps you recognize more places where it can make positive change. We also heard about the common myths that everyone starts from the same place today, that there is no racial wealth gap, or that being colorblind solves everything. In real life, opportunities are shaped by where you were born, what neighborhood you could afford, what schools you went to, and whether your family could help with tuition. A fast car, a down payment, a generational advantages compounds over time. Acknowledging that's not about labeling people, it's about facing the reality you need to fix if you care about fairness. On reparations and repair, notice how the speaker shifted from yes or no argument to practical ideas, education, access, affordable financing, and tools that help families build stable wealth. People will disagree about the details, but focusing on outcomes, closing gaps, expanding opportunity, building healthier communities helps the conversation move from a debate to design. Ask, what policies actually lift people? What investments have a track record of working? How do we measure progress and adjust? What's the problem solver mindset? I want to add the note about identity and pride. One creator spoke about choosing their identity every time, even with the hardship it can bring. That reminds us that the culture is not just pain, it's joy, family, food, music, and the feeling of belonging. When people celebrate that, it's not an attack on anyone else, it's the way of staying whole in the world that often tries to split you apart. If you are outside that experience, the most respectful response is curiosity and support, not defensiveness. What do we do with all of this? Here are a few simple real-world steps anyone can take. First, listen actively. If someone tells you about microaggression or barrier they face, start with, "Thank you for telling me," and ask, "How can I support you?" Second, learn the basics. How history shaped housing, schools, and wealth. What microaggression look like, how bias shows up in hiring. Third, use your voice when it matters most around people who already trust you. Private courage counts more than public performance. Fourth, connect effort to outcomes, whether it's workplace policy, a classroom project, or a neighborhood initiative. Ask, is this closing the gaps or widening them? And finally, protect your energy and stay consistent. You won't fix everything in a week. You will make mistakes, you will make awkward talks. Keep going anyway. The goal is not to win the arguments, it's to make daily life fairer and safe for more people. Thanks for watching. If you have a story or a perspective that others can learn from, drop it in the comments respectfully. Let's keep the conversation useful, humane, and focused on solution. I appreciate you all for being here, and I will see you all in the next one.